Order, if everyone will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, March 5th, 2026. Comments or revisions?
I have a comment, right?
Go ahead.
This is on page 3. Halfway down, vote by proper motion made by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Mr. Fuentes. The Goshen Planning Board hereby, there should be a word in it, hereby, something like this, approves or whatever.
Okay. And then on page 2, this is a minor one, on MC3 Ventures, the second paragraph down, starting with engineer. On the second line, the spelling of the engineer's name is wrong.
Second line, I'm sorry. Like,
Engineer Maurizio.
spelled it wrong. okay.
Yeah, we're missing the R in his name. Other comments, revisions? Looking here. Could I have a motion then to approve the minutes as modified, March 5th, 2026?
So moved.
Bill, second one? Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Next item on the agenda, 17A Warehouse Jessup Switch Road, 20-1-48.21, 49.2, and 50.1. We have an application for an amended site plan for a warehouse of 30.5 plus or minus acres along Jessup Switch Road and Pumpkin Swamp Road, otherwise known as County Route 25. The CO, AI, and EQ3 street corridor and water supply, watershed, and floodplain and ponding area overlays. And we're here tonight to discuss the expanded Part 3 EAF.
Mind you right?
No, it's all good.
Good evening, I'm Jason Pitangaro from Pitangaro and Doach. We're here tonight for the warehouse project, Route 17A warehouse on Jessup Switch Road. As the chairman has mentioned, this is a warehouse project for approximately, or was a warehouse project for approximately 100,000 square feet. I just want to be clear. The applicant has identified a tenant for the facility, and the expected use is light industrial and warehousing, so we just want to be clear and note that for the record too. The project hasn't been before the board for a few months, and we have submitted an updated EAF Part 3 or expanded Part 3 notations for the board to consider. And I'm also going to just point out, the plan hasn't been submitted yet, but we're point out a few new differences in the plan that we have here. We've extended the driveway straight through to the existing driveway, and what that's done is it's avoided this wetlands disturbance here, so that we won't have to encroach on the adjacent area there. We've added some additional spots, parking spaces, to accommodate the use as noted as light industrial. We're gonna have 104 spaces now where there were 67 spaces before. And those are the main differences that we have in the plan as of right now.
And Jason, you mentioned light industrial. Now that you know your proposed tenant, can you elaborate at all on the particular use?
They may,
Intended.
I don't know, can I elaborate? Is it okay?
I think so.
These are members from the Orange County partnership where it's a manufacturer of window cleaning materials.
Okay.
So they're a tenant that's moving an operation here from another state, and has a pretty good idea of what they're going to be doing and how many people they're gonna be employing, and that's how we came to these numbers in terms of parking. So we can, go through the expanded Part 3A app or take any questions from the board.
Sean, do you want to?
Sure, I can jump in, Mr. Chairman. So, as the applicant said, this was last before you in December. At that time, you discussed the expanded Part 3 outline. Applicants revised that outline, and I believe they're here to see whether you have any further comments on it. As you know, expanded Part 3 doesn't require an outline, we're just doing this to facilitate seeker, particularly because they have a tenant who has to be in the facility at a certain date. They are trying to limit the back and forth. I reviewed what they submitted. They've incorporated all of my previous comments. The only comment I would have was for them also to incorporate the comments of your hydrogeologist and your traffic consultant. They don't need to necessarily make a ton of revisions. They can just acknowledge in their EAF outline that they will address those comment memos from December. And other than that, after this evening, I think the next action is for you to receive and review the expanded Part 3.
I do have two questions for you, Jason.
Sure.
You mentioned as far as window cleaning products, are there any chemicals or hazardous chemicals on these stores?
Yeah, let me clarify that. By that I mean like the equipment, not the chemicals.
Squeegees and.
Exactly,
the like?
yes, not chemical.
And as far as the size of the trucks that would be moving in and out, as far as moving product, do we know anything about that at this point?
I'll get some clarification on that, but I expect there will be some tractor trailers and some box
Box
trucks
trucks,
that will be
both.
moving, yes.
I had a couple questions, Sean, on the building permit. Hold on, would I raise those at the same time?
Sure, let me just provide some information to the board on that. So because of the applicant's timeline, they're also looking to get a clearing, filling, and grading permit. This site, because of its location in the floodplain, requires a substantial amount of fill. That's gonna take a while to bring in that material. So I believe that the way they wanna process this application is you go through your seeker review, and when you conclude your seeker review, then at that point, the applicant would like to perfect the clearing, grading, and filling permit. They would start those operations while they're finishing up site plan review and any conditions of that site plan that you may have.
So does that mean I can raise my questions?
Of course you can.
Okay.
But when you said building permit application, I didn't want you to think
Yeah.
that they've already submitted building.
No,
permit.
I just had two questions on it, since it was passed along. The 30,000 cubic yards of clean fill, where is that coming from, and is there a certification for where it's coming from?
Sure, so the 30,000 cubic yards of fill was a quantity that was previously estimated when the plan was last submitted. We've since refined that, and I think we're gonna be closer to 16 to 18,000 cubic yards, so still a substantial amount, but I just wanted to note that. And we will make sure that it's clean fill. We've gone through this in a few other towns where some folks have received some free fill from someplace and have been dealing with it for 3+ years now to get it certified or removed. So we have not sourced it yet, but we will, and all those things will be provided before it is brought to site, of course.
And then also, kind of concurrent with that, is the truck traffic to move that product in, that extensive amount of soil.
Sure.
Has that been evaluated yet?
That hasn't been evaluated, but there is an existing entrance that would support truck traffic off of Jessup, and that's going to be the final entrance, but we can look at that movement and how much.
Jessup could handle the load?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, there is farm equipment that's continually going through here as well, and that's gonna be our main port of ingress or egress from the site eventually, regardless.
Thank you. Other comments?
I just have a couple based on the new use that you described. Actually, first of all, the outline is great. Thank you for that.
Sure.
The use that you're talking about, is it assembly primarily, or is it production of like plastic products and molds? Do you know?
I don't know for sure. I believe it's assembly, but I will get more information on that before we return.
Okay, yeah, I think it would just be helpful to us to know sort of what what we're really looking at. And obviously the outline, as good as it is, it's written about the warehouse function, so I assumed you were gonna update it. That's all. That's the only action.
Okay, the differences between the warehouse and manufacturing use in terms of the code requirements and bulk requirements are very similar. So we can take those into account when we do the evaluation.
Yeah, I think the ITE numbers are,
There'll be a
More
slight,
intense.
yeah, they'll be slightly changed for sure.
yeah. But otherwise, I appreciate you supplying this, it's great.
I got a question regarding the new use. Is it gonna be plastic extrusion? You know, are they melting plastic and molding it? And reason why, because you're gonna have
You're
affluents,
shaking your head no.
you're gonna have affluents, you know.
Sure, I'll let,
Sure, happy to. Good evening. Orange County Partnership, we're working with the team and the user on an exciting project. It's mainly, our understanding is value-added assembly. It's a final assembly, no plastic extruding, no heavy melting.
Packaging.
So it's a finished packaging, that's right. It's unique because it's not only, it's a user that, by advancing this project, we retain jobs in the Hudson Valley, but also create new jobs by way of bringing companies from out of the state into New York and into the ocean. But no real heavy industrial operations, they're mainly assembly.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, how many employees?
we're expecting about 100 employees. That'll be about 60 to 70 that are existing in another location and approximately 30 to 40 new employees. But we'll verify that as well too.
Thank you.
That site plan, we don't have that, right?
This was not submitted because we were just retained to begin work on this, so when we first looked at it, we said, no, let us see if we can straighten this road and make those other couple modifications. So I just wanted to have a graphic to have with us tonight so you guys could see that, but it will be submitted along with the filling and grading application.
All right. And also, you mentioned trucks bringing in the fill, coming in off Jessup Switch. They would be coming in off Pumpkin Swamp or Meadow Road, not the other end by Quarry Road, I'm guessing? Because
No,
that's
yeah.
a narrow, winding
No,
road.
yeah, it's barely passable with a vehicle, so no, I mean, they would come from, most likely Pumpkin Swamp, because they're gonna come down Pulaski.
All right, that's all I have, thanks.
Thanks, Marty. Kathleen, anything? Bill,
Yeah.
please.
You mentioned a large increase in the number of parking places. Could you show me where that was added?
Sure, it was, well, when we straightened the road, we were able to add a few here. And I do have the previous plan, which I'll just flip to, so I anticipated that might be a question. So we've added them in this area, and they're all added right throughout here in the front there.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, because I'm not so familiar with this project, but do you need to have those spaces screened from the road in terms of view?
Yeah, so that's the next thing that I'd like to talk to the board
Oh, okay.
about tonight if we're able to. So, I've had some discussions with the board's engineer and council, and we had identified, or there was previously identified, up to 4 variances that were needed. And I'd like to discuss whether those are variances or site plan waivers that we would request of this board or of the ZBA. So we're going to go to the ZBA concurrently, and I just want to make sure we're asking for the correct things. So I'll just go through them really quick. And there is a lot variance, without question it's a variance, area variance for coverage. So we'll go to the ZBA and see if we can obtain that. There is a variance for parking in the front of the building, which it's supposed to be behind the building, so the building would screen it. I think in this case, it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg type of situation here. I know the cars might be unsightly, but these are industrial type buildings, so I don't know that they're much more improved in terms of appearance. And also, typically, the rear of the building is used for access by trucks, so it kind of forces the parking to be in the front of the building.
Just a Clarification, what will we call the front of the building? The side that faces Jessup Switch, or the side that seems to
Yeah.
be facing Meadow Road?
It's a determination for the building inspector, but I believe we discussed it as a corner lot. Is that something there?
I don't recall that, we'd have to look into this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would consider it a corner lot too, which is more restrictive, but you have homes here. The Quaker Creek runs along the boundary here, and there is some vegetation that exists along that, and that won't be disturbed. There isn't vegetation along this frontage of Jessup Road, but we could include vegetation there, but regardless, I think because of the determination, that variance has to be sought regardless. So there's that item, which I, again, believe is a variance too. The ones that were in question was the requirement for a bike or walking path along the frontage of the project. And we're asking for either a variance or a waiver from that, since we don't see that it's appropriate for this use or in this location either. And then the final thing was the variance for 600 feet between entrances. And the code is explicit in that it says that you're required to have 600 feet where it can be obtained. And in this case, it's really not feasible to obtain it in 600 feet. If necessary, we'll seek the variance, but this entrance is pushed up against the northerly property line here, and this entrance is at the existing entrance to the site, and there is the creek and bridge here, so we couldn't move this entrance any further south even if we would like to. So I think we're bound by this distance, which is maximum that it can be, and the code does permit you to do that if there's no other way to accommodate the 600 feet.
Council, wish to weigh in on this one?
That is my understanding, that if the distance is impossible to create 600 feet, that it can be waived.
Can it be waived by this board? For variance?
I believe so, and as long as the building department agrees that there is no other way to structure it so that the 600 feet is not possible.
Yeah, so I would ask that I get a formal, like, interpretation of that, so I can look into it a little more, make a sound determination.
So we're gonna be going to the ZBA, so we can request an interpretation on that as well too, so it can be finalized. If they deem that it's necessary, we'll seek it
Right.
and hopefully obtain it. If not, we'll be back with something different, I guess. But I expect that we can come to some agreement on that. So those were the 4 other things that I wanted to discuss based on Mr. Troy's comment earlier regarding the parking.
With the bike path, do we have currently a bike path in front of the other structures?
You don't have one, but one was required in connection with the previous approval. You may recall that was discussed at the December meeting, that it wasn't installed, but now it can't be installed. We'll get up in a second. It's a design standard. Under your code, you have waiver authority if it is affecting an existing use or structure and would pose an economic or undue hardship on the applicant. So since it's a brand new structure, I don't know if they even qualify for the waiver in this case.
Putting in the path, the bike path, does it require taking down trees or any of the screening that we're gonna have, or is it something that could be placed in open area? And not-
I guess it's a question of where it would be placed if we were to place it. And if it's along Jessup, I think it becomes an issue because we again are right up against this bridge here where there's not gonna be a width to accommodate that path. So it's gonna be sort of like one of those sidewalks or paths that
Way to nowhere.
don't really connect to anything. So we could, of course, do it in this portion of the frontage if that's where the board is asking us to do that, but I don't know that that really serves the intention of the code. But again, we're looking for guidance on that, and we're not adverse to trying to accommodate, but we're just, trying to do it sensible too.
Sure. From the board, any thoughts?
I mean, I love a good bike path, but this does seem like it would be a
long
little
stretch.
stub of a bike path, so
Yeah.
I don't think we need to see it.
I agree.
Is there-
Yeah, and you couldn't put it on Pumpkin Swamp because it's a county road. You don't need, your property looks like it goes to the middle of the creek,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't see much value coming from it.
If we were on Meadow, I could understand, and there's a potential that it connected to the corner where Dunkin' Donuts is eventually. But, in this location, it just, it just doesn't seem sensible, I guess is the
What's
best way.
further up on Jessup Switch for, is there any sidewalks or anything further up?
It really peters out to almost nothing and then connects with Quarry. But it's, again, a pretty remote and empty
Oh.
area.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, okay.
Yeah, there's very little there.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I drive Pulaski a couple times a day and have been through there a bunch, but once you get past this next residence here, there's really nothing else back there.
So that's, you still need to go to ZBA, get a.
Well, it would need to go to the ZBA. I think since he's gonna be putting in the interpretation of curb cuts, he could also ask the interpretation on the other matter. And then if Frank makes a determination that it's yours to waive the meets the criteria, then they can request a waiver, and then if they don't get the waiver, then they take care of everything with the ZBA at one time.
Okay.
Anything else, Jason?
No, are we in agreement then on the EAF outline
Yeah, I think we were, did we?
with Sean's notes?
Figure out screening or not? I think we heard their position on screening. Did we respond to that?
We didn't respond, I think we would just need to see, existing foliage, whether it's adequate or additional screening would be necessary.
Yeah, so I think your position was the cars are no uglier than the building, like on the basic level.
Yeah.
But I think our position is we'd like to see it screened nonetheless.
Screening of sort.
Along Jessup Switch? Or along is being so the issue with
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
So you're being asked to comment on a site plan that you haven't seen yet,
Yeah.
right? So I think, and I don't think that this particular issue is gonna slow you down at all, right? So I think it would be more appropriate if you wait till you get the plan, and then you can consider what they're proposing, and then make a decision sometime in the future.
And we'll provide a narrative that describes our position when we submit the site plan in terms of the screening.
It may be helpful even just to have a couple screenshots.
Sure.
Of what is
Yeah,
existing.
we'll get some actual photos from out there.
I just had a question, Lee, if it's okay.
Go ahead, Frank.
The first topic was coverage, you said, before, what is that, impervious or pervious? What do you mean by coverage?
Yeah, impervious coverage,
Okay,
and we will seek a variance for that.
all right, thanks, Jason.
Anything else for us, Jason?
That's it for tonight.
Well, have a good night.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
guys have a good night too, thank you.
That's, it already is. I, the last couple of years, I spent evening.
Next item on the agenda is Healy Truck Realty LLC, 12-1-7.13, 8.221, 8.222, 8.23. We have an application for an amended site plan, special permit, lot merger for a truck repair facility on 22.6 plus or minus acres along 6.5 Station Road in the CO zone, AQ6 floodplain and ponding, stream corridor, and water supply watershed overlay. And we're here tonight to look at some revised plans.
Good evening, Jay Samuelson, Engineering Properties, representing Healy Ford Truck Repair. I have Marshall Jacobowitz with me, who's the attorney for the project. We were last here approximately about a year ago, made some presentations on where we were. We've been at the ZBA requesting our variances and interpretations. We did receive a variance for the setback to the stream corridor, and we did receive a variance for the impervious lot coverage. And we also received an interpretation from the ZBA that the vehicle storage area is not a parking lot, it's outdoor storage. So therefore, any of the landscaping requirements that are associated with a parking lot do not apply to the vehicle storage area. So since that time that we received those variances, we've furthered the design on the site plans. We've given you the site plans and a demo plan, a grading and utilities plan, erosion control, lighting, landscaping, and details. We know that we still have additional work to do, such as the floodplain analysis, a full SWIP. We're still working on water and sewer provisions with the town. We know we have some additional information we need to provide regarding screening of the facility and the screening of the parking areas. We know that there are several issues that require input or discussion with the building inspector, so we'll be looking to set up a meeting with him to go over those issues and discuss them and get answers from him on his answers or his interpretations of those sections. And I know there's also a couple of legal things that Marshall will have a conversation with the board's attorney as well. So at this point in time, we're just back kind of give you an update as to where we've been over the past year and what we've been doing, show you the progress that we've made and where we're still going, and just get any more additional comments that the board may have, so when we get into that other design, we can take those into account.
Thanks, Jim. Sean?
Yeah, so Jay summarized it very well. Just a couple very broad issues for the board to keep in mind. It's in the floodplain overlay district. It also has some floodway concerns. Jay indicated he's going to be providing those flood studies, which are required in the code. I did have the question as to, it didn't look like the graphic of the floodplain matched the FEMA map. So I had asked them whether they had, or requesting a letter of map amendment or a letter of map revision from FEMA. Also, you're going to be required, because it's in your overlay zoning district, to make some findings. They have indicated that they have access, which is one of the primary things that your findings are based on. And that's southerly driveway. Jay, would you mind just pointing that one
This
out?
one here.
That's a northerly one. and
There's this one as well.
So the southerly one looks like it's on the adjacent lot, so I'd ask them to provide something that they have the right to do that. Jay talked about the floodway already. It's also in your stream corridor overlay district. That prohibits the storage of hazardous materials within 100 feet. I don't know if building inspector considers cars to be hazardous materials.
Because of the gas tanks on the way over.
Because of everything, yeah. So that's one of the determinations I think that you were referring to, that you're gonna have to talk to Frank about. One of the other ones was that the applicant got a favorable determination from the ZBA relative to the inventory storage of cars. It's storage, it's not parking. The code has some requirements for that, which I pointed out, and Jay mentioned about the screening. The other was whether that's a legal, legally pre-existing non-conforming condition. I think that also is you're gonna be working out.
Now, with the legal non-conforming pre-existing, does that limit the percentage of vehicles that can be stored above and beyond what it was? Does it cap it off to
No,
70% more?
I would guess that what Frank would be looking for is to see that on a plan somewhere else. So let's say, for argument's sake, let's say they had 2 acres of storage on this plan. He'd be looking for an approved plan, or that existed prior to the adoption of the zoning code or something like that, that he can say, yes, this was legal when it was constructed, and it's continued this entire time.
But any additional storage above and beyond what was on the original plan, that's what I'm kind of referring to.
Yeah, so it could be a hybrid, that's a very good point,
Okay.
right? So Frank might come back and say, well, this part is legally pre-existing, but this part isn't, so then you'd be looking at it actually under 2 separate criteria under your code. And that's a definite possibility. And the last thing I just have for you is, for tonight, seeker. I think it's an unlisted action. Interestingly, the EAF mapper indicated this was in an ag district, which would have triggered a type 1, but the EAF mapper is wrong. When you compare it to the county ag district map, it's not in the ag district, so I think it's gonna be unlisted.
question on the buildings themselves, the building construction. We're indicating that the height, the maximum building height is 33 foot 4 inches. Is that to the peak, or is that to halfway up the,
I think that's to the peak.
That is the peak,
Yes.
so there would be likely under 30 feet, 30, what, was it 35 feet?
It's 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, okay. But as far as on the table, the 33 foot 4 probably should refer to the halfway height up the roof, not the
Well, yeah,
maximum
it would-
height?
It should refer to what the code definition of height is, the zoning code definition of height.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
so that'll come down, okay. Okay. Comments from the board?
Diesel storage, is there gonna be any diesel storage?
No, diesel is in what, fuel?
Yeah.
No.
And how about, washing trucks?
The plan does not have a washing of, it doesn't have a wash bay for washing of customers. This is strictly a customer repair facility for trucks.
Yeah, it's not an auto buy, it's just a repair.
All right. That's all I have for now. Thanks.
That culvert that's being removed and replaced with a more substantial culvert.
Yes, that's part of the additional FEMA study that we're doing and additional design that we'll provide, so we're gonna
Okay.
replace that, and I'll get you further details on that culvert as well,
Justification
yes,
and everything.
yes, correct.
Other comments? If not, could I have a motion first off to type this action as a unlisted action?
Not moving.
Eric, second by
I'll second.
Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Sean,
Declare intent to be agency.
could I have said motion?
I'll make it.
Good job. Thank you. Jeremy, second by Bill, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? And that is all we can do this evening, correct?
I believe so.
That's, yeah, I
Unless
just,
you have any other
there's,
questions?
unless there's any other comments or other things you were looking for, but I know we still have some information, we just wanted to get back in front of you and discuss where we've been and show you that we've gotten those variances and we're still moving forward, so.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Quick question.
yes.
No concern about that water getting those brand new cars, huh?
So, they're.
Just curious.
Right, so this whole area here now where they do have these vehicle storages and part of this area in the back is in the floodplain. And that area does get some water in it. They already have a procedure in place when there is forecasted heavy rains or forecasted flooding that those cars are all moved out of there before it starts.
Because I drive by, I've seen that.
Yep.
Running
Yep.
cars.
Yep, and it's an unfortunate situation that that's where it is and that's where the flooding is, but yes, they have procedures in place to, because the insurance would not be happy if they left them that way. So.
And maybe this is an engineering question, but there's no concern about paving that whole area?
That whole area is already paved.
That is all
Yes.
existing paved?
It's all existing pavement. Everything that we are doing is within previously disturbed areas. The area that the proposed building is already in a completely paved area.
And that whole area toward the back, that will be
And this
paved?
is already all paved already, and it's all paved up to here.
Okay.
This is all existing pavement. That's why we got the variance for the lot coverage, because that's already over the 70%.
So no new paving?
So no new pavement. I'm actually hoping to get it down a tenth if we can.
Is that pavement or impervious pavement?
Pavement,
A
pavement.
permeable pavement?
No, it's not permeable.
It's not permeable?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's just pavement, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Jay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 349 Maple Avenue, Renew LLC 19-1-77. It's an application for a site plan approval and special permit for a trucking terminal for shipping non-agricultural products on 2.8 plus or minus acres along Maple Avenue, County Route 37 in the AI zone. Is to be free floodplain pond and stream corridor and water supply, watershed, and scenic road corridor overlays. Juan, welcome.
Juan Jesus, MGS Engineering, good to see everyone again. So the basis of our discussion tonight is going to be the memorandum that was provided to the planning board dated March 13th. So just some of the things that we've updated on these plans previously, and I just want to say, I know we are looking for some determinations from the building inspector, I just want to leave those for last, just because I know there's a few of them we're looking for. But we have revised the parking. Previously, we had the parking in the front yard, and we've moved it to the side. We put all 8 of those employee parking spaces. There was a comment to shift the parking from between the front of the building and the front property line. And we are fine doing that and just leaving our 8A parking right here. So that's one point. We updated the stream corridor. The limit of that boundary is 150 feet, and we're not proposing to construct anything in that. It was mentioned.
That 150 is from the high water mark?
Yes, of the Walk Hill River.
Okay.
There was a question about the road frontage. We did eliminate, previously we had showed a rear yard setback, but because this does have 2 road frontages on Celery Avenue as well as on Maple Avenue, we showed the rear yard is just not applicable and showing 2 front yard setbacks. And we are prepared to update the table to include that additional front yard there. So the layout, we were asked, we will provide the pavement detail. I know there was a question on the trash enclosure, of whether or not it needed to, if the trash bin needed a trash enclosure, that dumpster area. Currently, it does have existing screening behind it, and we're proposing these 3 evergreen trees as well. So we were thinking it is, not very visible from the road.
It's not just a matter of visibility, it's also a matter of containing any debris that would either fall from that dumpster or be piled alongside it.
Yeah, that's
It's not just
understandable.
visibility.
Yeah, so if the board wants, we can definitely add that to it. There was a request for the fire department access to be reviewed. We do feel that there is currently enough access here since the whole front of this is gravelled. And speaking to the client, he even says that the fire trucks, they often do turn around in his parking lot because it's wide open and there's plenty of area there. But we can provide additional plans in our next submission to be circulated to the fire department for review. And then there was a requirement for well testing. In this building, it only uses 120 gallons of water per day. So we were just requesting that we do not have to perform that well testing since it's just, it's comparable to a 1-bedroom home. We just felt that well testing wouldn't be necessary. And so we'd like to ask for relief from that requirement. There was a statement that making it a condition of approval that any leaking vehicles be stored within the enclosed building or for the applicant to utilize strip cans. And we do feel, that's a good requirement. We're gonna add it to our general notes on the plan as well. And then we did have a question for some of those interpretations from Frank. But before we get to that, were there any questions from the board at this time?
The fuel tank on the side of the building. First off, what type of fuel, what size do we know at this point?
Fuel oil, and I believe it's 500 gallons.
Does that have containment, double containment?
I'm not sure. I didn't find out.
And the other question, at this point, we don't know where the leach fields are. That was something that needed to be investigated. You mentioned it was gonna be located. Just want to make sure it's not in the line of traffic flow, unless it was designed as such, for that purpose, but, clearly, because you mentioned, fire trucks turn around in there, you're gonna have the parking on the side of the building, you get to traverse that one, what is it, I don't have my compass in front of me. The side of the building where the parking is. You know, if they're gonna be passing through there, well, obviously, we hope that you don't have a septic leach field sitting in that area as well, now that we're moving the parking to that side of the building.
And the one.
The wells in the back. Yep. Other comments?
Did I hear you correctly that the method for like demarcating the parking spots would be in the next, one of the next, submission?
So at this time, the lot gravel, it's been gravel for decades from what I've seen in the historic aerials. And we want it to remain as such, and the only paving that we are proposing at this time is just this ADA handicap space as well as the walkway to the front door. That's what we were paving, but we were gonna leave it as a gravel parking lot.
So no demarcation of the spots that are on the
No.
I just know that, you know, we all drive by the current iteration of it, and if it's a gravel lot, people park kind of wherever they want. And I don't think that that's, I think that sort of subverts the 3 trees, if that ends up happening, but, I assume it would be a condition of our approval that the lot stays neat and tidy with respect to the parking situation. And if you feel you can do that without demarcation, okay.
You could require demarcation if you want, just because it's gravel doesn't necessarily preclude, I mean, you could put something, you know, they could have, bumpers or even, I've seen, signs, there's all sorts of things, the applicant is very creative, I'm sure they could come up with something.
Okay.
But if you feel, you know, that right now that's not, if you feel that what's going on right now isn't representative of what's being proposed, right, then you could absolutely require it as a condition.
What's going on right now is not representative of what's being proposed.
One of the other items, on the rear of the building, facing cellar, it says there's a door there and a concrete apron. And you have your well next door to that. You know, I'd like to see like bollards or something protecting that well, you know, have vehicular traffic in the back there. Other comments?
Is the fuel tank used for heating the building, is that what that's for, or is it for fuel trucks or?
No, it's not for the diesel, for the trucks. I know it is fuel oil, and I know there's a water heater as well in the building, because the water usage is just a sink and a toilet. So I'm not sure if it's actually to heat the building or just for, you know, hot water. But I can definitely find out for next meeting.
Other comments?
Nothing here.
No. Anything else, Sean?
I got a couple real quick ones if you want to hear, Mr. Chairman.
By all means.
All right, so, they require site plan and special use permit. This is actually a truck terminal for non-agricultural. Frank made that determination some time ago. Since they were last before you, they've received a revised decision from ZBA. I think Grace distributed that this afternoon?
I only sent it to you. I can send it to you.
Okay, so you'll be getting it shortly. This is also in the floodplain, it's kind of a theme tonight. But the applicants previously demonstrated that floodwaters at this location usually are only about 6 inches deep, so they do have the vehicle access. They've indicated the well is above the floodplain, and the last piece is what Lee had indicated about the septic field, and they're working on that, they just don't know where it is. I think you're gonna hear from Juan about interpretations from Frank for frontage and impervious surface coverage. And then just getting back to the parking real quick, the code requires screening from public view, which would in this case be maple, if possible, and they're proposing the 3 trees. And they said in their narrative that they think the existing vegetation is sufficient. If that's the case, if you're not familiar with the site, you could ask the applicant to provide you with some photographs, or you can, you know, drive by and make a determination yourself. But that's what the code standard is. And then lastly, I think this is a take 2.
You had mentioned in your notes, Sean, as far as the parking, you proposed 40 parking spaces. I guess it extended beyond the side of the building, kind of projected into the front of the building as well?
Yes, yeah, so, traditionally, the interpretation from the building department was extending the front face of the building to the property line, and anything in front of that would be considered parking in front. So you can see if you were to do that right now, it looks like a portion of the second and first stall would be in the front, but I don't think it's a real big deal for the applicant just to shift everything down. And if they're parking, as Jeremy says, it's probably, they're parking all over, so
Yeah, we can do that.
I think that's pretty easy.
Council?
No additional comments other than agreeing that it is a type 2 under secret.
Need a motion for that. Type this project is a type 2 action.
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by?
I'll second.
Kathleen, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's all we can do this evening. Other than the conversation between the building inspector
If
and.
you want, we would schedule a public hearing. The only thing I would say is if the applicant wants to do that, then I would just say that they have to submit their outstanding information on the septic field before getting on the agenda.
And if we have a public hearing, that would be held for the first or second meeting of April.
Yes, but your
16th or
first and
30th?
second meetings are a little off.
Yeah, the
so-
16th and the 30th.
Yeah, so it would be either the 16th or the 30th, yeah.
Either one's available?
Yeah, do you think you can get the septic information in by the second?
Can we go for the 30th meeting? That's the second?
We could do that.
So
April
if they
30th.
can- So it would be a public hearing for the 30th, subject to submission of the outstanding materials by the 16th.
Right. Could I have said motion to set the public hearing for the 30th as per the requirements to have all the required information in by 2 weeks prior, by the 16th?
So moved.
Bill, second by Eric, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, so set up tentatively, as long as you get the information in that we're looking for. By the 16th, we have a public hearing for the 30th.
Okay. And then there was just a few determinations that we're looking for, one being that, just that the site is outside of the RU district, so we just wanted to get confirmation that the requirements of the scenic road overlay district are not applicable to this lot.
So I would agree to that. That's the first one. So I got a letter dated February 26th. There's five items on there, so that'll be the first one. I would agree to that.
Okay?
Okay. The minimum road frontage that's required is 200 feet. The existing is 164.39. So we would like confirmation that this is a legally pre-existing non-conforming condition.
I would ask that if we could locate the original subdivision plan to make that determination.
The next one being that the maximum pervious surface coverage required is 50%, and our existing is at 100%, and that's just due to being in the floodplain. We can't count any of the lot area that's in the floodplain and the entire lot in the floodplain.
Again, the original subdivision plan would be a good base, a good reference point to make that determination.
And then, for the front yard setback, the required is 50 feet. The existing is at 48.3 feet. So we're just also asked, building inspector Halloran determined that that was a legally pre-existing non-conforming condition on July 18, 2019 for his interpretation.
Yeah, so I'll agree to that, sure.
And then the same determination, I believe, for the last one. Yeah, building inspector Halloran determined that the side yard being 336.3 feet, whereas 50 feet is required, that was a pre-existing legally non-conforming condition.
Agreed.
Each of these that we're agreeing to were, that came from Neil prior. Do those get listed on the plans? Do they need to be cited on the plans, just like we would a variance?
Yeah. We try to do that for future reference, so yeah, we would ask that that be done.
Okay. great night. Next item on the agenda is 6 and, that's canceled. 6 and 8 Gumwood is canceled. So next one on the agenda is Gims Garden LLC, 24-1-7. We have an application for amended site plan approval for an agricultural warehouse and onion packaging facility on 10.66 plus or minus acres along Pulaski Highway, County Route 6, and Wisniewski Road in the AI zone with an AQ3 overlay. Here tonight for initial presentation and to begin this the process. Welcome, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. I'm hoping this will not be too confusing. We received a site plan approval from you guys, and there were a list of conditions, and we complied with all of them, but there were two conditions that, frankly, I didn't realize the timing of them. And I'm just gonna review them quickly. They're specific conditions, 1A and 1B. 1A, basically, if you recall, there's an existing retaining wall in the front yard of Wisniewski Road, and there was a requirement that that wall cannot be more than 4 foot in height in the front yard. So the site plan identifies that a portion of that wall has to be taken down to the middle. It's a block wall to a maximum of 4 feet. And the second big condition is 1B, has to do with the entrance on Pulaski Highway, so that there, that entrance to be removed. Both of those conditions, there's two parts to this. Both of those conditions, we would like to revise the resolution so that those conditions are part of the site plan improvements along with everything else. In other words, we'd like to get our site plan signed so we can get a building permit, and once we get our building permit, and once we get our site plan signed, we can go through our financing, but then we can get our building permit and commence with all of the site work. There's a lot of site work that has to be done. We have mitigation areas, we have to put a septic, there's a lot to do. And these two specific conditions, for whatever the reason is, were stated that they had to be done before the plans were submitted. So we're requesting that, the conditions obviously are staying, but we would, yeah, we just want to have them along with everything else, the mitigation, everything else that we're going to be doing to the site. So that's our first request. And then the second request, we just wanted to discuss option 1B, which the original proposal, which shows on the plans, is the removal of a section of pavement along Pulaski Highway. And we wanted to discuss whether or not we could do something a little different. Scott Gimm is here. First, we would like the board to consider, as opposed to removal of the pavement, either signage, potentially putting in the concrete blocks, or thirdly,
The concrete
gates.
blocks, the mafia block?
Yeah. So, as opposed to ripping out the pavement.
Can you remind us why we asked for that?
Because the site distance is not good there.
You wanna make it clear.
The
it's
site
not-
distance is
not
not
strong.
good.
So you can't, come over and go on.
And there's sort of two entrances.
Yes,
into
correct.
Pulaski.
That's correct.
One of them's already blocked off somewhat. So are you requesting to not have to remove
The pavement.
the pavement or both of them?
Yes, correct. And either sign it, block it, gate it, one of those three things. Our preference would be in that order. But that's what we'd like to discuss, and whatever you guys decide, I can work out the details with Sean to make sure that it's suitable, and that's basically the reason we're here this evening. No other site, no revisions to the site plan, no amendments, no anything.
With that driveway, right now it could serve as an emergency access.
The applicant has indicated that, yes.
Could that be blocked off like with a Knox box and chain type of thing?
There are requirements, yes and no. There are requirements under the fire code if they wanted to do that. They can install a gate, certain gate requirements, certain width requirements. There's certain requirements in terms of opening gate and things like that. But if I could just take a step back, the reason those conditions were added to be completed before signing, that was my recommendation to the board. And the reason I made that recommendation was when applications have a number of conditions and they're not required to be done before plan signing, occasionally it happens that we don't actually get them. These were important, I thought, to the board, so I recommend they be done first. And the other reason is that when there are a number of conditions and they have to be done either prior to a building permit or prior to a CO, that's just more work for the building department to do. I didn't really think that these were really onerous requirements, but they're the types of things that could actually just get missed, right? You know, Frank's dealing with a whole new building and he might not even think about Pulaski when he goes through. So that was the reason why I made that recommendation. In terms of what Mr. Fowl asked for a revision, I'll defer to council on this, but I think your code has a procedure for this in place, and I don't think there is a procedure for you just to revise a resolution. This would be an amended site plan approval. And that's in the code, it's at 9778D. So,
Which could take you longer than actually getting it in the piece of equipment.
so it, I mean,
So you couldn't amend the approval this evening?
No. You're looking at me like you're surprised, Joe. We had this conversation a month ago.
What's that?
We had this conversation a month ago.
No, we have to come to the board to discuss this, yeah.
That there is a procedure, that you needed amended site plan.
Well, just for my own for my information, what would that entail?
You would have to submit a new application.
A new application?
They would make a determination whether it's similar or a dramatic change, and that would dictate whether you need a public hearing. It's in the code, and it's in black and white.
What about, how about just the first part, just amending the resolution so that this site work can be done as part of the rest of the site?
We have to submit an amended application.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
Why are they opposed to doing it?
Well,
The work
because there's a bunch of site work that has to be done, you know, we have a mitigation area, I mean, it's all identified in the site plan, so I just assume that everything that's shown on the site plan obviously has to be done before a CO gets done. And these two particular items had to be done before, and as you may or may not know, once you get a signed site plan, your financing pops into place, and you know, you go to your building permit and you can proceed, and we're just a little hung up on that, and that's why we came in to hope that the board would be, you know, amiable to helping us out on this, but it's got to go through the process all over again to make that amendment to the resolution.
I don't think you want to do that.
I didn't.
The weather should be good tomorrow, getting there with the machine.
Right.
I mean, the wall itself shouldn't be
No.
significant. It's a modular wall. As far as tearing the asphalt, just to demonstrate that it's not a driveway. You know, but it didn't limit how far back we did it on the plan.
No. I think it was a 10-foot removal, right, Joe?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, John. Next item on the agenda is HQCA Clean Energy Services LLC, formerly known as SR 94 LLC Solar Project, Lakestar Renewables, 20-1-21.12, with an application for a clearing permit for a solar energy system on 60.7 plus or minus acres along Randall Street, New York State, Route 94, in the CO zone, AQ3 floodplain and ponding area overlays.
Mr. Chairman, can I just start this one off?
You sure, man?
What are you submitting to this board?
So that's some information we just got in the last couple hours of the actual acres of trees that they cleared.
Response to your amendment.
As I said numerous times to you, you have to talk to the board before you make additional submissions. So you're asking them to consider this tonight, consider
Well-
approval tonight?
Yes, we're asking to consider that tonight, so one of the comments made was there's variance in how many acres of trees are being cleared. So this is to clarify that.
And one of the other comments made was, please don't make any submission before the meeting until speaking to the board.
Okay, I apologize about that, I didn't realize that was, I thought we were presenting it, I thought we would show that right now. My apologies on that, if there's any confusion there. Well, good evening, I'm Jim Maskell, along with Richard White. We're here to talk about the submission for the tree clearing permit for the SR 94 solar project at 4383 State Route 94. We want to thank you all for having us tonight. You know, there's a little compressed timeline on the submission, and thanks to Grace and the staff of the town and Sean for reviewing this. We're providing detailed notes so you can address some issues and hopefully get a permit issued tonight. I want to emphasize that this is not a full permit for construction, just the tree clearing portion of it. So we want this so we can remove the trees before the March 31st deadline. The project itself already has an SEQRA negative declaration, a conditional major site permit plan, and a defined scope of a 2.4 acre solar facility on 27 leased acres on a 60 acre parcel. So again, I just wanted to run through Sean's comments and address some discrepancies and answer any questions that he had. Hopefully provide a clear resolution on them. The first one is the handout that I gave you. There was some discrepancies throughout the history of this project of how many acres of trees we were removing. We had a surveyor on site today, Miles Land Surveying, and they determined that it is only 4.6 acres of trees being removed. So that's why I had this document ready for you today and shared it with you to show that.
So we're into the 5 acres.
Yes, that's right. So that's fully compliant with chapter 53 and avoids public hearing thresholds. The other one, the minimum.
Good.
Yes, Sean.
The plan says 4.38 and the email says 4.6, which is.
4.6 is the, that's one that just came in today.
But the plan you submitted just now says 4.38.
That was,
Upper left.
yeah, it does. I'm sorry about that. That was printed this morning, and the information we just got a couple hours ago on that email was from the land surveying themselves. They had all the information and points they took out in the field today. So it's the most accurate information, and there's a little discrepancy on that, so I apologize about that. The minimum file correspondence made clear that no mechanized clearing activity would be allowable, as that would trigger SPDES and MS4 requirements. So for this work, we're proposing it'll be strictly hand felling only, chainsaws only, using the existing site access, no stump removal, no grubbing, no grading or soil disturbances. So as we cut the trees down and leave them as they lay until we come back with those permits in hand to be able to move and disturb the soil. The memo requests confirmation regarding the NYSDEC wetland permits. That permit remains valid. It's issued to SR 94 NY LLC, so there's no transfers required on that. But with that, there is a we like to clarify and emphasize that we will follow the requirements of that permit.
Is it no transfers required, is that as per the?
That's correct. Pardon me?
As per the DEC?
Yes, that's correct. It stays in the same name, so that name's not changing, we're not gonna transfer it. But with that, there'll be no work in the wetlands, there'll be no disturbances to the wetland buffer, and no heavy equipment in regulated areas. There's another discrepancy on the count of the trees that are being cleared. There was some back and forth in that throughout the history of this project. The 331 trees comes from the project description that was evaluated as part of the SEQRA review, and we're remaining constant to that count. So we'll not remove any more than 331 trees with this clearing. There was also an indemnification and hold harmless agreement. It was asked to be reviewed by the town's attorney, and if that is unacceptable, we will revise and make it comply with what the town's asked us to show. Sean also asked about a clarification on the estimate of the work, which is $55,000. The majority of that is driven by the contracted count of Duffy's Outdoor Services. They're paying prevailing wages for laborers to fell the trees. There'll be site supervision by Utopian Power, and then some PPEs and other miscellaneous charges being that as well. The proposal acknowledges will comply with all applicable requirements of Chapter 53, including Duffy's contract, which has compliance language of the Chapter 53, the stake and the flagging, which has already been done, and adhering to permitted work hours. It does not include This application request does not include full construction, SWPP implementation, or MS4 acceptance. We understand that those items are completely separate and will be fully permitted before construction begins. We would like to ask that there is a waiver for the performance guarantee, as this is a minor scope of activity. There's no disturbance to the soil, no grading, no erosion risk. There's no infrastructure being installed. There's a significant financial investment already committed to the project. It's very unlikely, not realistic, that abandonment would happen at this time. From my understanding, that performance guarantee is to stabilize the land, and we're not disturbing any of the land. So we're here, with a narrow and time-sensitive request. We're seeking approval for a sub-5 acre tree removal, hand felling only, no soil disturbance, no mechanized activity, and full compliance with Chapter 53. We're simultaneously working on full engineering of the site. We'll expect to be back here in 2 to 4 months to request a full permit for the project, as well as all the applicable permits and applications that go along with that. This allows us to enter into this environmental clearing window, which is ending March 31st. So it'll give us enough time to clear the trees before that and keep the project on schedule. So thank you for your time and consideration. We're open to any questions.
Questions, a couple of questions. You had mentioned, Sean, as far as, first off, the hours of work, 7:30 to 7 p.m. Or not? It doesn't follow the same as any other construction job, 8 in the morning to, they could run chainsaws at 7:30 in the morning?
Yes, clearing is a little bit different, Mr. Chairman.
Is it?
Yeah.
Too bad. Okay, the other question I had, you're looking for an exemption from the performance guarantee. I don't know you. You're new. I mean, we're not the people we were dealing with before.
Yes.
You're coming in and asking us to give you permission to tear down all 331 trees in the next 12 days in anticipation of that deadline because of the Indiana bat.
Yep.
You're not disturbing soil, but you're cutting down trees and leaving stumps. If you were to walk away from this project, that area's gotta be restored. Obviously, the trees aren't gonna grow back from the stumps. The stumps are gonna have to be removed and re-vegetated. I mean, I believe that that's what the performance guarantee is for. If you cut the stuff down and abandon the project, decide solar's just not the way to go, or at that location. I'm not sure, I mean, Sean or council weigh in, but I'm a little concerned about that, especially on short order with a new applicant.
I understand your concern, of course, if we were to walk away, but I think the performance bond is for soil stabilization rather than restoration. The soil will be stabilized with the trees that are down. I could be wrong, of course. You guys are the experts at the code.
Yeah, the applicant's partially right. The primary purpose of the performance guarantee for a clearing, filling, grading permit is stabilization of the site. The town's not gonna go in there and then complete the work. So if the applicant cleared 2 acres of trees and then walked away, the town's not obviously gonna, do their other. But just because they're only cutting down the trees doesn't necessarily mean the site is stabilized, in my opinion. I understand there's soil disturbance criteria of the DEC, but that's not necessarily the criteria that this board applies under their zoning code.
I mean, once you cut the trees down, you have any kind of heavy rains. There's no trees to suck up and pull up that water. You start having erosion issues. A 3-foot stump is not gonna pull water. And that would be my concern. Over 4.5 acres, it's a lot of surface area. One man's opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, just is it okay if I?
Oh, please do.
So, the other thing I just want the board to be aware of is that this site received conditional approval back in November of 2024, right? And as you know, we've had some discussion recently about the town board considering extending that beyond 2 years. The applicant would need to be in a position to do this work by this November, right? They need to have a signed site plan. So if that doesn't happen, as much as the applicant wishes it would, then it could be years that the site would remain in this condition.
Would you like to weigh in on that? Is there anything you could add to this mix?
It's a tangent, but the only thing I can add is that the indemnification referred to in their application is just a letter saying we will indemnify. that may be acceptable now, but it should be replaced with an actual agreement rather than just a letter indicating that they will indemnify at some point in the future. So that's something that should be done as well.
Yeah, we have no objection to that, we'll, whatever needs to be done on that aspect, absolutely.
Comment, Lou?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, a little bit more information for me. The chairman's question about the near future and what's going on in the past. I wasn't on the board then, so I don't know if this was discussed, but I am curious about the transition of ownership, the reasons for it. Is this a project that's solid or only partially solid? I think we have a little concern about the success of the project.
So from our perspective, the project is solid, meets our financial obligations and commitments. So the approval, of course, is going to be from you guys when we bring in our building permit plans. And if that all goes through without a problem, we're building this.
If I
We
could-
have the, I'm sorry.
You don't need to come back to this board.
Okay, not for, we don't have to do the 2 public hearings? Okay, great. We do have the landowner behind us, if you want to hear from her as well. If there's any questions.
Can I say this question? You just said 2 seconds ago that if your financial goes through, you're going to do.
No. No,
Could you repeat what you just said?
I believe I said we are set with this project. We are building this project. It was pending upon your approval. However, it sounds like we have, and I apologize, I'm relatively new to the project. So it sounds like we have all the permits necessary other than our physical building permit.
Just to help the applicant out. You have conditional site plan approval from this board. You have a conditional special use permit from the town board. Conditional meaning that there are conditions you need to complete to perfect that and get final approval and signed site plan. There are time limits associated with that, and you are running out of time. I understand that you just acquired the property last month, which is generating this rush right now, but that doesn't mean that the clock starts over again. So, there is a potential if you're unable to meet all those conditions and get the plan signed by the chairman, that you may have to start your application anew.
And that date is in November.
That date is 2 years from the date it was approved, so it would be November 7th, 2026.
Okay.
You have an extension coming up in this June. That will be your last extension.
Okay.
And that was all in my memo that you have here.
I'm confident we can meet those dates. We're expecting to be under construction before then. In our schedule. I understand we have those conditions to meet. I do have, okay?
Yeah.
I do have one question, is, Mr. Hoffman gave a very detailed memo on the conditions and some other facts. One of those facts was that in the NPDES permit, what we're asking for, which is felling of the trees, not necessarily clearing, it doesn't really, it's not defined as clearing by the DEC. So is your definition of clearing different than the definition from the DEC? Because we wouldn't, if we were just felling the trees, we would not need an NPDES permit, as I'm advised from the memo.
Frank, do you want to read on this one?
So very simple, I don't have the definition in front of me, but there is a definition of clearing. And I think Sean may be looking for it now.
In the dark code.
And I'm not trying to offend anyone, we're certainly committed to adhering to all the conditions.
While he's looking for that, you're Utopian Power, correct?
I am, yes.
You are?
Yep.
Out of Ann Arbor?
Correct. Yep.
Do you have other projects in the works or completed in New York State?
Not in the state of New York, no.
Oh, so we're the first?
Yes. Now, Q-Cells does though.
We do.
And
We have a project near Binghamton, we had a project up near Rochester.
Now, who are you,
I'm-
where to you? What's the relationship between the
We're
two?
the ultimate owners of the project.
And we're the EPC, we're the construction team.
You're
for the project.
building, you're gonna own it.
Correct.
So who's the applicant?
Utopian Power is the applicant.
So you can put out the performance guarantee?
Pardon me?
You're putting up the performance guarantee?
If you make us.
Did you find what you were
Yes, I
looking
did. Yeah, so the code defines clearing as any activity which removes or significantly disturbs living trees, brush, grass, or any kind of vegetation, excepting the products of agricultural operations in an area of any size.
Disturbing.
So felling 300 trees would pretty much be disturbing the,
Okay.
I would say so.
Understood.
okay.
And the DEC definition is tree clearing, and this is a DEC definition in the Speedies general permit for construction-related stormwater discharges. Its construction activities limited to felling and removal of trees. Tree clearing does not include hand felling and leaving the trees in place with no support from mechanical equipment. And the reason that's important is that the DEC in their prior permits, there was a lot of question over when you need to get your SWIP in place and get permit coverage, right? So they have now revised this permit and includes this definition to allow somebody to go in and hand fell trees, but it's all about disturbing the soil. So once you introduce mechanical equipment to the property, DEC said you have soil disturbance, and at that point you need the SWIP and you need the coverage under the permit.
So your definition is different.
Yes, well,
Oh, understood.
yeah, it
So
was-
it's disturbing.
yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Maybe to give that to Chairman's point, it was just one man's opinion about the performance guarantee, now it's two men's opinion. Like, I think we're, I mean, my impression is we're good hustling you guys through this, but the performance guarantee seems like a strange hill to die on, and I think we should require it.
Yeah, we'll comply if that certain board agrees to. We just wanted to ask for a variance on that. As my interpretation was it was stabilized or restabilizing the land, so understood.
I totally agree with what you just said.
Now I've heard it.
But I do have a question. You as a new owner, have you touched bases with the utility regarding this already? And have you applied for them? Because that could be a rather lengthy process, you know? And things change, you know, the capacity changes as time goes on. It's already been a while since the project has been approved. Capacity may have changed since then. So have you guys gone through that process yet? Because that's the reason why I think it's performance, that is mainly because they have other issues that they have to take care of. And if there's no capacity, guess what? The project falls through and the tree's laying down. So, yeah.
Yeah, there is an interconnection agreement in place with the utility. There is an ongoing weekly call that neither of us unfortunately are part of. So we don't expect that to be a problem, but I cannot stand here and assure you 100% that that's the case.
So am I to understand then that, no, there is not something in place, but that is something that's being discussed?
No, there is something in place, but there's an ongoing weekly call with them that,
Coordination call.
thank you. So part of this project was acquired last month as a ready-to-be-built project. And Q-Cells did the due diligence to make sure that it can be built before they invested the.
How do you spell Q-cell?
Q, little c, E-L-L-S, Q-Cells.
Q-Cells.
The contracting agent's arm is HQCA, Clean Energy Services, LLC.
And that was the meaning of our project.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm
No.
reading the applicant's submission.
Did not want to disturb it.
Sorry about that.
Where do we go from here? We're now looking back at
Yeah.
12-day clock, and we're talking about a performance.
Yeah, I just want the board to realize why this is before you, right? So, Q-Cells bought the property, it first came back to us in February, mid-February actually, the 19th was the first time we were contacted, and by we, I mean building partner and myself. And, we went over that they didn't have approval, they couldn't pull a building permit. I think there was a little surprise on the applicant's, side that they weren't ready to go. They then came back for the staff meeting 2 weeks ago, and they indicated one of the trees. And we told them that this is, we get you on the agenda, give it your best shot, but this is an uphill battle because there's a lot that needs to go on. Originally, They were going to clear everything. The original plan had, the original site plan that this board approved indicated that it was 5.82 acres planned. The applicant, though, submitted an annotated plan that said 4.5. They circled some areas. So I thought that maybe that was an intentional to get around, or get below, yeah, get under the 5 acres, which just triggers a public hearing. And the reason a public hearing is an issue for them is the earliest you can have a public hearing is 16th of April, which is beyond the tree clearing deadline, right? There were issues with SWIP. The applicant actually didn't realize that the town is an MS4. They made a submission to the DEC. They actually obtained coverage, but I think the coverage is invalid because it didn't have the MS4 acceptance. So there's been a couple different things. This has been a
And that's
moving target.
acceptance from,
The DEC.
from the DEC.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the MS4 acceptance is the town.
Local.
Yeah, so the way it works is if you are in an MS4 community, before you can get permit coverage from the DEC, which is really just submission electronically to the DEC, that submission needs to include the MS4 acceptance. And the DEC, and the reason for that is the MS4 town is responsible for reviewing the SWIP and making sure everything is in place. So the applicant recognized that they're not gonna be able to satisfy all the SWIP criteria. The original SWIP was written around the old permit, have to be updated for the new permit. They have to post stormwater bonds, they have to go to the town board. There's a lot that goes into getting a SWIP approved and getting it covered. So now they've come back, they've given you a survey this evening that says the whole site, which originally was 5.82 acres, is now either 4.38 or 4.6. So I don't really know what you want to do. I mean, I think they're looking for you to issue an approval tonight. You heard from council about the indemnification agreement. I don't know how long that would take if you wanted to do that. And the performance guarantee, normally, you know, we do a calculation and an estimate on that, and then we accept the value. I mean, I understand that that's something that sounds like the board is going in the direction of wanting, but even just setting a performance guarantee isn't something that just happens tomorrow afternoon on a call. You know, there's process for that, so.
But we could get a written commitment
You could.
from them to put this together, even if it's not put together prior to the actual felling of the trees.
Yeah, my biggest concern at this point, and my concern always has been the area of disturbance. I can't tell you for sure that the 4.38 or the 4.6 or the 5.82 is correct. I just, you know, the other, the applicant submission originally, that was also based on a survey. So that is an area that's kind of up in the air right now. But if the board wanted to assist the applicant, we could try to get to there tonight, I think. So it's really what this board feels and what you've heard this evening.
Absent that, we're looking at November as far as cutting trees again, next opportunity.
Yeah, and the original application, like, so you just heard from the first applicant this evening, they're looking for a clearing, filling, grading permit and a site plan simultaneously, because they realized the site plan, okay? When the original applicant, not these folks, the original applicant, Lifestyle was before you, they weren't considering this approach to the project. They were gonna get their signed site plan and then start permit. That's how everything was set up. This is a different, you know, this is a departure from what was originally contemplated, so we're shuffling a little bit here, and the March 31st deadline really doesn't help matters. So if you decided that you're not comfortable moving forward with this tonight, there's just too many outstanding issues, then they would, I guess is they would complete all the conditions, get the signed site plan, and then once that November window opened up, then they're free to commence with the work.
And how does that, okay, so the map would have to be signed prior to November, you mentioned that's the deadline, what, November 9th, 7th? You said November
27th, I'm sorry.
November 7th, 26th. If we were to approve it tonight, again, the concerns we have seem to be logistical in terms of the performance guarantees and,
Yeah, the big item is the area, the performance guarantee, like what the amount is and what that looks like, indemnification agreement, right? So that's an agreement that they would have to provide, council would have to review, everybody would have to agree on it, the supervisor would have to sign, they would have to sign.
so again, it comes down to your table as far as being able to address those items in any kind of timely manner. I mean, you know, it's very easy for us to say, yeah, go ahead and do it, don't do it, or put a condition on it, but then it falls on council and you, Sean, to make it happen with whatever they give you, or, you know, if it's not right, it's kind of late. how do you feel about it? I mean, as a consultant or a consultant?
I'll be frank, Mr. Chairman, there's been a lot of missteps with this, and I don't know if it's because the applicant really hasn't done work in the state and is unfamiliar with the.
Well, that's what I was asking, we're the first.
The procedures, you are the first. Or if it's just, you know, they inherited this, they thought they were getting a site that was ready to start construction, and it's not, and they're trying to make the best of it. They don't know, there have been some missteps, and I'm a little worried, but, you know, I don't make decisions here. You guys are the decision makers. If you say you want it to happen, then we'll do our best to make it happen.
Sean, with regard to the area you're talking about, I understand that it's been bouncing around. Couldn't we just ask for a survey?
Well, that's what I believe that they have provided you, but even that, Bill, is two different numbers. Usually surveyors are pretty precise people. I got a 4.38 and a 4.6, you know.
To clarify that, I printed that other plan this morning, and that one was not based on.
What was the 4.38 based on?
The 4.2 is based on, a map and measuring points.
So this,
Such as a group.
this is, you made this map?
Yes.
Oh, so we don't need to pay that any attention, that's not from the survey.
And then the surveyor correct today.
But then I have a written.
We have a memo. There's a memo in that paperwork, I think.
Yeah, so the surveyor was on site today,
Where it
they
does say
staked
the
it,
4.6
they
in the
measured it,
email.
according to that email, is based on,
Since they finished
also
up
survey that they
before
had,
today.
and then measuring points on site.
He's a licensed surveyor in New York State?
Yeah.
I just got this,
We were at the site at
10 pages.
4 o'clock today. They were just leaving. And that's when we asked for them to calculate
I don't even know what they measured, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I know is I know the plan that you approved previously had the 5.82 and the applicant, I'm sure you don't remember, but I've looked at it multiple times the last 2 weeks. The applicant had broke it down into different areas and what each acre, each area was. And there's a big difference between 5.8 and 4.6.
Well, anything over 5 is the magic number.
One of the big differences in, and I know that's a Google map of what it is.
No, I'm not even looking at this. What I'm looking at is the original surveyor for your predecessor said it was 5.8 acres of clearing. You're now, today, saying it's 4.6. We're not discussing like 100th of an acre or 1/10 of an acre. I mean, it's, you know, it's 1.2 acres.
Because they carved out some areas that don't have trees in them. If you don't look at the map, that's fine. That map's different than the original one. There's one big area, if you don't mind. This used to be one big area right in there, but this area there are no trees in that area. That was carved out.
I don't know, I mean, it's just a moving target, Mr. Chairman. I don't know.
That's just it. I mean, to make a rash decision on the spot, when there are questions that are outstanding and not, that can't be answered now.
Is there a possibility for, you know, we have conditions in here, and there's still some questions. Is it really 4.6? Right? Can we get a conditional approval from the board, should we meet certain conditions? We get I don't know what else, stamped survey, possibly from the surveyor.
Prior to making your first cut?
Prior to making the first cut, yeah, we can do that. And for the other logistical paperwork things, we would diligently work on those things. I can't say they're going to be done by Monday morning, right? Especially with the performance guarantee amount that has to be determined, the indemnity. If you have an indemnity form and we can review and sign it, much easier, right? It goes quicker than us creating one, sending it over to you. You know, we're here to do everything that we can and comply.
What is the drop dead date for starting the felling of the trees to be done by March 31st, working within that window of 7 to 7:30, whatever it was?
We haven't asked that question with our contractor. They are having enough manpower on site to finish it next week, to finish it by the 31st as of starting Monday. I don't know how close that is cutting it, and if we push it a day or two, I have to assume they would still be able to hit it, but I don't know that for certain. There's also, I'll leave it at that.
So if the board is considering this, I would say that the conditions would be at least following. You have to submit a sign and seal survey indicating less than 5 acres to be cleared. certifying in the field all the areas with flagging and fencing to the building inspector's satisfaction, as you do with all clearing applications. To make sure that what is being shown on the plan is actually going out and occurring in the field. Only hand felling and leaving the trees in place with no mechanical equipment, that satisfies the DEC criteria. Submission of a hold harmless agreement to the satisfaction of the planning board attorney. Submission of executed contracts for the clearing stating that they are subject to the town code chapter 53, that's one of the requirements of the code. And then posting a performance bond, either a certified check or a letter of credit in a form acceptable to the town attorney. And for amount, I do not know yet.
And you gotta start
And
on
the time-
Monday?
and the time
Your
period
contract
is-
has to start on Monday? In order to make the 31st?
We have a letter of intent with him to start Monday if we gain approval tonight, yes.
So it doesn't sound like you're gonna get it done on Monday. I mean, that's why we just throw it on the table. They need to start on Monday to make the 31st.
No, I'm
Well,
saying
no, that was his original
Yeah,
that was-
agreement
that was
with the
their
tree
intent.
feller.
That's why I was asking what was the drop dead, if they would start Wednesday, Thursday. Can they still get it done by the 31st? Do meaningful felling to make it worthwhile. But again, it comes back to your office, you know, yourself, comes down to Sean.
It's not
As
us.
far as, no, but meaning.
It's not, it's them, Mr. Chairman.
No, no, I'm
They
saying,
need to get these things
once
in.
they got it to you, in your hands, how much time do you need to look at? You're not gonna just drop everything in the world just because it came, you know, through the
If they
threshold.
sort
of the door.
if they sort of asked that this be a priority, this would be a priority. But
Absolutely.
everything from them has to be complete, consistent. I mean, they need to go through this and not just, you know,
Right,
so if you
but,
want us to do
but
that.
you
we
can
do that.
handle it from your ends,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if it was in your hands, in a timely manner. Goes back to you, Jim, can you do it?
Yeah, I believe so.
And your surveyor, and the map.
I believe so. They were on site, they got points, their access, or their points today, they have all the surveys already.
Marking out the field, getting.
The field's already marked.
Getting all the documents prepared for council.
When it's
performance
marked,
standards.
how is it marked?
It's staked and flagged.
You mentioned fencing. Are we missing something with that?
Yeah, typically they require fencing in areas of wetlands and stuff like that to make sure, well, you're clearing and you have wetlands on the site. So, usually it is fencing or flagging, to the satisfaction of the building inspector. And the idea is that you don't want somebody out there with a chainsaw, they need to know where they're clearing,
Right,
right?
not
Or
randomly
cutting
cutting down trees.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're only taking down trees that are 6-inch, or all trees, where we take, the 331, what does that come?
I believe that count is the 6-inch diameter.
6 inch or
at breast-
larger?
At breast height, yeah, I believe that's what that 331 count is.
I would imagine you're taking down everything, but you've only inventoried.
I believe, yeah,
Right.
6 inch, yes,
Right.
that's correct.
Jeremy? No, that's not what it is. Let's try. How do you feel, based on what we just talked about in the last 3-4 minutes,
I feel like. this
under
is-
those conditions?
Yeah, I feel like this is an extraordinary amount of work that we'll be lucky to have our consultants complete. Actually, they'll be lucky to have our consultants
Right.
complete. But, like, if, as Sean says, like, it's doable, I'm comfortable, you know, trying to get this done. I suspect it won't get done, but it'd be fun.
All right.
I just wanna make sure that we're consistent, you know, because we, you know, I've been on the board for I don't know how long, but I've never come across something like this where we have to hurry up and go quickly because of a new person or an applicant. But I do understand the bat issue, which is crazy, my thought, but anyway, I do understand that, so I'm on the perspective that if, as long as he can get the bonding and the performance thing and all that, it's a lot, you know what I mean? And you guys, I'm surprised, Sean, you're saying what you're saying, that, you know, we'll get it done, because it's a lot to do in a very short amount of time.
You know, Lee, you were on the board for other large projects, and the town has a history of doing.
Okay, great, so I'm glad you said that, because I feel better about that, so if that's the case, then we should try for this applicant. meet all the criteria.
Right.
I agree, the criteria that Sean laid out, performance bond, the signed and sealed, survey showing the tree removal area, as long as it's below 5 acres, I believe, we should let them try.
We need the signed contracts, for
Yeah, there's
I feel
a,
uncomfortable with the rushing of the whole situation, especially on something that once it's removed is not gonna be replaced. So once that field is cleared, that land is cleared.
But this is not, my understanding is it's not getting cleared till all the issues have been addressed on.
Right.
their
Right.
end. They can't be out there and,
And I'm
concurrently
concerned
tear
about
trees.
the actual amount of tree area that's being cleared, but we don't really know. So I guess once we get a survey, we'll actually know that it's actually less than 5 acres.
so I think it would be, if the board's inclined, it would be an approval up to, less than 5 acres.
Right.
Right, so it would have-
4.99 acres. If they come back and the survey's
5.01,
5.1, they're done.
Right. So I guess if the criteria is something we all feel comfortable with and it's met by Monday, I guess that's okay, but it does.
Well, it wouldn't
not
necessarily be
feel-
Monday, it'd be when they get it done, and if it still leaves them enough time to cut trees. Because they may not have it all in on Monday. That's why I'm saying it could be Tuesday, Wednesday, they would first start cutting Thursday, or Wednesday, 5 o'clock when we're having dinner. But,
Right.
no,
So-
but, so it wouldn't necessarily
But
be
then what
Monday.
would happen if
They run out of time.
they run out of time and we have?
They have to stop cutting.
Then they have
And
to
they
stop
stop
cutting.
cutting and-
And that, the project is still in partial hold.
And
You
what,
know,
how
they
does
can't
that
build
impact
anything.
the life of the project in terms of meeting that November threshold, like, am I being clear?
Well, for the November threshold, they have to have signed plans, right?
Yes, you
Yeah.
can't extend it beyond November.
Right. They have to sign the plans. We don't have to finish
We don't have
construction.
to finish construction by then, we just have to sign the plan.
You have to have signed plans, which completes the process.
So we'll be good then.
And there are some trees that are directly in the path of where the arrays are going. There are others that are in between them that would be higher risk to cut down when the arrays are in place. So to address that timeline, if we're running short on time, we strategically take out the trees that we need to start construction. And then afterwards, we'd have to be a little more cautious in taking trees down. Now it's an open field, we can just fell them and fall where they fall.
After November.
After November, yes. If we go back after November, we could strategically take them out so we can start construction prior to that. And then we take the other trees out, we just have to be a little smarter about taking them down or lowering them instead of dropping them. So if we're running short on time, we could prioritize.
I see.
Bill?
So I think, to be clear, the board is bending way over for you guys.
We appreciate it.
And
Yes. The consideration.
I wanted to hear your acknowledgement of that, and the fact that the requirements that Sean has laid out are non-negotiable and can only be completed in the time that's available, and if they're not, that's it. And under those conditions, yeah, I could agree to a temporary.
Thank you. Sounds like the consensus of the board is that we proceed as they requested, subject to all the items that we raised and the deadline, obviously, to get them in and accepted before the first tree comes down.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that you authorize a resolution. This is a little bit backward, usually authorize a resolution, review the resolution and adopt it, but I would ask that you authorize a resolution for council to draft that up, just so we have something in writing, and I will work with them to give
With
them.
wording.
Yeah, and then,
But I have some motion.
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by? Jeremy? All in
Second.
favor, say aye. Against?
Aye.
Okay.
Wait, Sean, have we just authorized the draft of the resolution or the
but
resolution?
it's backward. They'll prepare it and then we will sign it essentially, but it will, in substance, consist of what we discussed this evening.
Thank you very much.
Just to clarify, the submissions would come to the building department?
Yeah, they should make a submission simultaneously to you and to the consultant, I think, just so there's no lag.
No lag, that's my point. I don't want it to sit in my office and.
May I ask, the performance guarantee, the steps in calculating that?
You have to give me an estimate. You gave me 55,000 tonight. You said that it's, mostly your contractor, but if you give me that as well as the cost for your ordinance and control practices as well, was to go in there, they'd have to set up erosion site control, because they're not gonna go in there and do all the work, they would have soil service. And then just so you're clear, that has to do under the code, go to the town attorney. This council is a planning board attorney, so there's another consultant that he would be dealing with. And the town would only accept, according to the code, a letter of credit or a certified check.
Yeah.
So if you haven't, and I copied him on the email that we exchanged last week, if you haven't already reached out to him, I should get back to you, so.
The last item, the indemnification. Would you like us to draft that, or is there a, do you have a template?
In an effort to save time, I think it would be better for us to put something together and provide it to you. That way we know it's already acceptable.
And you have our contact information to send it over?
I don't yet, but yes, please provide it.
I have.
Okay.
So we'll get it there.
Thank you very much. Well, I really do appreciate your time in getting us on the agenda at such short notice, and the really careful consideration of everything. You know, this is one of the longest presentations, so I really do appreciate all the questions. And
Don't disappoint.
Yeah, I promise you. In fact, I promise you I'll pay you. I promise.
No,
No, I promise,
No,
the
no,
guarantee.
just take care of the items that are on the list.
Very good. So, we'll get this stuff together, starting tomorrow morning. Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, Sean.
Only got two items so far, Mr. Chairman, for your meeting on the 16th. That is Wood subdivision with an expanded part 3 and 16th.
There's always back and.
Yeah.
Well, we still have another 2 weeks before.
The more things to add.
Well, Grace Drive will send you guys the agenda, so.
We've got a lot of emails to go through, and our team has to do their jobs.
Anything else from the board? Any concerns, questions? Not to have a motion to close the meeting. Eric, second by. Bill, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Have a good night.